Hello and welcome to KB Michelle Green, the podcast where anything goes. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you enjoy. So, it's been a few weeks since the last post or the last podcast, and I just wanted to briefly come to you all and just talk about where we left off with isolation. It's been a few weeks, not necessarily because I have wallowed in isolation, but it's been a few weeks because I had a shift in my thought process. That thought process was one where there are levels to our lives. When I say levels, I'm speaking of tiers where I was just in prayer. And while I was in prayer, or rather before I went into prayer, God had instructed me to pick up a book on the way to my prayer closet, which is where I pray sometimes. Pretty much pray anywhere. I'll pray in my closet or on the porch, on the back porch or the front porch, in a chair, in the bedroom, in my son's room. Probably most of my prayers are in his room. Just is such a peaceful type of place. And yes, he's not a teenager and he's not a grown man. He's not even in his teens yet. So, anywho, the point is that on the way to my prayer area for that day, which actually happened last week, God told me to pick up a book. Well, I have books all around, books in my bedroom. I have a whole library bookshelf case, and I also have books in my living room. And I picked up this book about location. But then I heard a small, still voice say, put that book back and pick up the book underneath it. So I did, and I took it into my prayer time, but I just laid it underneath the chair that I was praying over. And when I opened my eyes after I finished praying, God instructed me to open the book. So I opened the book and I went to a specific page. And when I went to this page, initially that wasn't the page, but then I saw the words, "The problem is the way you see the problem," as one of the titles of a section in a chapter. So it caught my attention. I began to read, and it drew me into this place where the isolation absolutely changed. Now, I have to say that prior to this happening, the day before, I actually take classes because I don't believe that as a human being, you should be the smartest person in the room all the time. I think that you should definitely be not the smartest person in the room all the time. And because I do a lot of teaching and motivating, inspiring, and, helping people to become better entrepreneurs as well as establish credit, I take courses and I listen to I won't say a lot, but I do feed myself from other people who inspire me. And I took a class. I'm taking a class. I've been in class for 2 years now. And in this course, the day before, I was talking to my coach, and she said, "Hey, why do you feel like one of the foundations of God changing your life is foundational isolation. Because, of course, I took that mentality into my class, and I asked her about it because I had some other peers that were also feeling the same thing that I was feeling, like people don't really understand you completely, and just being in my own feelings and whatnot. So anywho, while I was in class, my mentor teacher stated to me that the isolation period was a lie, and that it truly was not that people around me didn't understand. It was actually that I pushed people away. So I just want to be real with you guys. Like, seriously, could it be that we aren't actually isolated? Could it be that we are the problem, or the way that we think is the problem? Could it be that maybe it's not that they didn't want us around? Maybe it's our interpretation of our own inadequacies. Could it be that we've pushed people away who really have desired to be there for us? That's the kind of thing that I was thinking about. And I actually broke down and cried in class. It was overwhelming because in the isolation stage, it is a lonely place. And I think that we all go there from time to time. But it forced me when my mentor said this comment that it was all a lie, that I was not isolated, and there are many people who would understand me, who are on a level that I'm on or higher, who would be willing to just allow me to vent if that's what I really needed. But it forced me to think about what it is that I really needed. How did I even get to the isolation stage in the first place? So just being completely honest, when I read, going back to my prayer time, when I read in the book that I picked up that God led me to, which was the book underneath the book that I actually picked up, I went directly to this problem. The problem is the way that we see the problem issue, and it spoke of the same thing. It's talking about dependencies that we have when we start out in the world as a human being. And it talked about not just dependencies, but independence, becoming an adult, maturing to a certain level, but also establishing interdependence, which many people may not know a whole lot about. But interdependence is when we actually become independent and mature, and we can work with others. I think that the world has actually taught us how to not work with others and establish that independence is our highest level of achievement, because everybody in today's society, no matter what country, no matter what continent, you know what I'm saying? Basically, we all have this mindset that we can do bad by ourselves and that we don't really need anybody else. So we would just decide that it's okay for us to just live our best life, not really concerned about anybody else's best life or collaborating with anyone and connecting and staying connected and looking at a bigger picture of what we all can achieve together, and that there's no competition. But we don't think that way. We think from the level of dependence to independence. So if I could just make enough money, if I could just buy that beautiful house, if I could just have that fancy car, if I could just have the beautiful children, if I could just have the beautiful marriage, Of course, marriage before children, but that's not the way I did it. If I could just have those beautiful clothes, that beautiful attire, those beautiful shoes, if I could just have something for myself, is the isolation stage. And I do think that it's necessary so that we can identify what it is that we really truly want and even need. Because in these 3 tiers of dependency, independence, and interdependence, I found that if there was never a stage of dependency, then we wouldn't really figure out independently that we needed anybody. And if we never got to a place of realizing what it is that we really want for ourselves, there would not be a place for us to actually share with someone else. So this is my take on coming out of isolation. We need to mature from a dependency state of physically immaturity. We also need to grow from the level of monetary immaturity with our finances. We need to get out of the immaturity of socializing improperly and learn what healthy relationships look like of all kinds. And then we also need to mature in our mental health stability, our mental growth, and how we are developing in our minds and making decisions, since especially our minds are the dashboard of our lives. And last, we need to definitely mature in our level of spirituality, of knowing that there is someone who holds the universe in his hands, in between his thumb and his middle finger. But we need to definitely mature and find out more knowledge. And just not to chase a rabbit, but on Sunday, I helped my son to basically start from scratch with his spiritual growth. And in that, what happened is I taught him about the books of the Bible. And in looking at it, I realized how much I know, but so much I really don't know, because I've never read the Bible from beginning to end. However, I do know some things. The Holy Spirit has led me to some things, but I don't know everything. And this really has shown me different levels of immaturity in my own life. In order for us to come out of isolation, in order for us to actually grow and become the people that we were originally purposed by God to become, then we really need to grow up. And that's all I have for today.